Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my channel if you're new here. Today I'm doing a video on a very unspoken topic. A big thank you to Hayley who reminded me to do it by commenting on my Mirena insertion vlog the other day. I will be talking about whether you should get the Mirena or the copper IUD. Now the short answer is that it totally depends on you, how your periods are naturally when you're not on any contraception, what your history has been taking different contraception and how you've responded to hormones or non-hormonal birth control, as well as your current circumstances, whether you're in a relationship and how long it is before you want to start trying for children, because all these factors play into whether you should get the copper, the Mirena, or any other birth control. I'm not a professional and I thought I would just sort of do a story time about my experience having both the different IUDs. Let you assess on your own, knowing your circumstances, whether you should get one or the other. So I'm going to provide you with a very honest review or very honest story time. Long story short, in 2016 I got the copper IUD inserted. I was 18 years old at the time and I had the copper IUD for 5 years before my doctor recommended I get it out. I got the copper IUD taken out and the Mirena put in February this year. So I'm now 8 months into having the Mirena IUD in, and so I've experienced both and sort of made it past that 4-month mark, which is what they say you need to give each different kind of birth control before you can make a proper judgment call on it. So does anyone else feel like just to be comfy they need to have a pillow sitting in their lap? How much more comfier is this? This story time is going to be split up into why I chose to get the copper IUD, my copper insertion experience, the first 4 months getting the copper IUD when your body slowly adjusts, 5 years then of what it was like having the copper IUD in. Then I'm going to go into why I got it removed and why I was told to get it removed. Then I'm going to talk about why I decided to get the Mirena as the sort of next birth control method. Then I'm going to talk about my Mirena insertion experience, but you guys can go obviously watch that vlog. Then I'm going to share the last 8 months and how I feel with the Mirena. And then finally, I'm going to provide you with some tips and things to consider about which one to get. Why I chose to get the copper IUD. I had a really bad experience going on the pill, which I went on. So to backtrack, I was sort of encouraged to go on the pill by my mum, and I really appreciate her doing that at the time. So she encouraged me to go on the pill when I was in year 12, and I personally find sharing that phase of my life a really difficult time to discuss. So we're going to go into it because I think it's really important to openly speak about it, but I apologize if I'm a little bit awkward trying to get the story out in the right way to put it publicly online. Yes, I was under 18. I was encouraged to go on the pill. I was living in Indonesia at the time, so I don't actually know what the pill was. I know everyone says that they were on Yasmin or something like that, but I can't remember what pill I was put on, and it wasn't to deal with acne, it wasn't to deal with bad periods, it was literally just to protect me from pregnancy. So it was a birth control method. Now, at the time, I was in a long-term relationship, but I actually wasn't sexually active. I was just trying to work through some things, and at the time my mum thought I was sexually active, so she encouraged me to go on the pill, and I went on the pill, but I then had a really bad reaction to it. So I think I went off it pretty much after 2 months. The hormones did not mix well with me. I have had really bad mental health for a long time. I think I had suppressed a lot of emotions, and when I went on the pill, I found that it released, I don't know if it was just the pressure that I suddenly had birth control, which meant that there was no reason not to be sexually active, or whether it was just some past things coming back and making me really relive old experiences. But I was a mess. The pill made me gain weight. The pill made me eat so much. I was so unhealthy. My lifestyle became so unhealthy. I would literally wake up at 5 in the morning. I'd eat breakfast, but in saying that, I would have to get my school bus at 6:45 a.m. So I was having breakfast at like maybe 5:30 every morning. And then I'd get to school and I'd be so hungry that I'd eat my lunch and my recess at recess. And then by lunch, I would buy like 2 meals at the canteen. I'd get home from school and I'd have 2 afternoon tea. I would literally have like 12 stacked up little rice cracker and honey things every single day after school, and I would often have 2 servings of dinner because I was just so hungry. And then I would eat Wheat Bix before I went to bed every night. I became really depressed. Now I think there were a lot of factors playing into it, but there is a large part of me who blames the hormones that were running through my body. All of these things I was trying to work through, but I was dealing with them pretty well until I went on the pill. And all of a sudden, I felt quite literally dead inside. I would just not talk to anyone at school. Like it just really reacted badly with me. Now, I think it wasn't until I hit the highest weight I had ever been in and I sort of moved into a new increment that just freaked me out. So I was like, that's it, I'm going off the pill. I don't even care. Like, I know they say to wait 3 months, but I was just like, I'm done with this. I'm not doing it. And my mental health did persist really badly for the remainder of that year. So I don't know, and I will openly admit, I don't know if it was the hormones that were affecting me, maybe made it a little bit worse. Anyway, I wasn't even sexually active at the time, which is why I just said, why am I even on this? Like, I'm going to go off it. I'm not even sexually active. Like, I'm not taking it for any other reason than to not get pregnant, but I was doing the 100% birth control thing by not having sex. And it just made me feel like I had less of a right to say no. So I wanted to go off it to give myself more control over my body. 18 months later, I began being sexually active again, and I knew at this point I was 18, I was in my first year of law and psychology at uni. I was living out of home and I just thought, I cannot get pregnant. However, because of all these things I had been working through on my own, I became really ashamed of being sexually active. I didn't want to tell my friends. I didn't want to have that conversation. I recall people saying, how often do you and this person have sex? And I would feel very, very uncomfortable. And like instantly, I would just want to cry in the moment. I just wanted to be left alone to figure out and become independent and make my own choices about my sex life. I went through this process with no one, no friends, literally no one apart from my partner at the time. I didn't want to tell a soul. I was getting cash out in small amounts to save up to get the copper IUD because I didn't want to tell my mum. I didn't want to tell anyone in my life. And I just really feel like taking this time to pause and say that, please, seriously, if you are young, good on you for searching this video and finding it, because I don't know why I didn't do that at the time. But I tried to make this decision on my own. I went to the Sexual Health and Family Planning ACT Center and I said, I need birth control. I need something, but I don't know what to get. I don't want to touch hormones. I don't want anything hormonal, but I need more confidence knowing that I won't get pregnant. And I kind of felt this pressure at the time, and a lot of my friends know that I felt this pressure like the only option would then be to get an abortion. And I didn't even want to have to make that choice and have people judge me. I didn't want people knowing that I was even having sex. So I made this decision on my own, me and a professional. And I just want to say that if you are young, if you feel like you can't talk to anyone about this, please know that you can come and talk to me. Please message me on Instagram. I will chat with you about it because I think it's really important to run these things by other people. At the time, I knew nobody that had got the IUD. I felt very young to be considering such a invasive process. Everyone at that point had the rod or was on the pill. I didn't feel comfortable saying to people, I'm sexually active, this is my sex life, welcome to this very private thing for me that I've been trying to work through. I went and I decided to get it. I got the money taken out slowly over time in cash, saved it up, and then I went in totally oblivious to the process, what it was like. I didn't know anything about it except what they told me, which was maybe you should take some Panadol right before you get this in. That is why I got the copper IUD. Now let's talk about my copper IUD insertion experience. I think this is different for everybody, and I think that there was a large part of me who had no expectations. There was no one who told me that getting the copper IUD or the Mirena IUD is a painful experience, aside from a doctor saying maybe take some Panadol beforehand or some painkillers. I forgot to do that because it just was not a part of, I was so conscious about being like, don't tell anyone where I'm going, just go get it. Like, don't tell anyone what's going on, because I felt ashamed that I was sexually active and confused and just messy. So I wasn't focused on the fact that maybe this would be painful. And I think having low expectations meant that it hurt so much more because I wasn't expecting it. Figure out how to afford it. I didn't have a job. I was on Centrelink payments at the time, and I didn't want anyone to know. So I found that upon reflecting, I know a lot of friends now who I've now spoken with. No one I know has a copper IUD, just to let you know, but a lot of people say that the actual insertion process itself is painful. I don't remember this being a painful experience. I remember it being uncomfortable, but I have no recollection that it was painful. I remember walking out and they said, okay, you need to sit here and wait for half an hour. And I was like, I'm fine, I'm totally fine. They gave me a vomit bag just in case, and literally within like 15 minutes, I truly have never felt so painful isn't the word. And I know a lot of people share their experience by referring to it as pain. And I don't know if maybe I had a bad reaction or a different reaction, but I wasn't in pain. I felt like my whole body, like every inch of my body, felt sick and nauseous, if that makes sense. Like my arms, my whole body just felt like, oh my God, get this out. It kind of came in waves, in the same way that nausea comes in waves. I realized, okay, there's no walking to the car. They had told me prior, make sure you don't have anything on in the afternoon. I think I got it done at about 11 a.m. And I was like, oh, that's fine. Like, I don't need to cancel my class because it's at 4 p.m. So I should be fine by then. But I was out for about 24 hours. I spent the whole time in bed. I didn't get up to eat. I didn't get up to go to the bathroom. I felt just my whole body was nauseous. And I think truly, like, upon reflecting, I had a copper device in my body, and that had never happened to me before. So I think my body was trying to expel it like really intensely. So the first 24 hours was a really bad experience for me, but I think that that is actually quite common. I personally don't think it's worth deterring you from getting it, is what my personal opinion is it's 24 hours for 10 years. Yes, it's scary. Take pain relief before you go, because I didn't do that. So that was my IUD insertion experience. I would actually say that it probably was the most painful experience of my life, the worst that I've ever felt, because it was just whole consuming and so intense. But it only lasted 24 hours, and I know that's a long time, but I slept through the whole process. Like, my body just knew what was going on and it just let me rest. Now, quickly, I want to address how to get the IUD, whether it's the copper or the Mirena, where to get it and how much it costs. So I went to Sexual Health and Family Planning in ACT. They are lovely there. You have to do a consultation, which costs $100. Once you decide what you're getting, they will give you a script for the actual device. So I would then go, or you would go to the pharmacy, you pay for the device. The Mirena is $40, and I'm fairly sure the copper IUD is like $30 to $40 as well. So that then brings it to $140 roughly. And then you have to pay for the actual procedure, which I'm fairly sure was $270. But I have all of that information broken down in my Mirena insertion videos. So on to the first 4 months of me having the copper IUD. They say that the copper IUD gives you really bad period pain and makes you have really heavy periods. I second this, it definitely does. So if you are someone who suffers from really bad periods to begin with, this is something you really need to look into and consider. I'd just say your average period, At the time that I got this, I was in a really bad mental health place. I mean, I have been for my whole life. I was in such a bad place that I wasn't eating and I wasn't getting my period because I wasn't eating. So like I kind of thought to myself, it's actually going to be better because my period will be regular, where I was skipping my period. I'd get it for like 2 days, I'd get it. So I wasn't too concerned about this, but it is something to consider. In the first 4 months of getting your IUD, they say that your body is more willing to expel it. So it's going to try and expel your IUD essentially throughout the first 4 months before your body adjusts and realizes, okay, it's a part of me now. As I have previously explained, and I just feel like it's a part of the story, is my attitude towards sex and how ashamed I was of myself and how dirty I felt. So I really was just so conscious about nobody knowing that this was happening. I felt like just honestly so bad about it. About 2 months into having the copper IUD, I was in Indonesia at the time visiting my family. I got my period. And this is so TMI, guys. I apologize, but I guess we're here for the stories. They encourage you to feel your string to know that your IUD is still in there and it hasn't expelled or it hasn't moved. And if you can't feel the string, there's a problem. What I became worried about was that I think it was my second period I'd had on the copper IUD. It was bad. My cramps were excruciating. Like, it was to this day my worst period that I've ever had. I was in like a foreign country. I didn't have a local doctor. I didn't have anyone. I couldn't just go to sexual health and family planning and say, holy shit, please, like, is it okay? I thought it was expelling, but I didn't want to tell my family. I didn't want to tell anyone. So I kind of just dealt with it, and I could feel the whole string like hang out of me, and it really freaked me out. Now I feel like putting this in here that I then waited 2 months, and the fact that I couldn't go get it checked at the time made me super paranoid. But it turns out that when you get your period, your cervix goes lower, and that's why I could feel the string. So just don't freak out about that if that happens to you. But obviously make sure that you do have a local doctor you can go talk to, or a friend or someone. Please just don't do this alone. I learned the hard way. It was just, and I thought it was expelling. Like, I was bleeding on the ground with really bad period cramps and go from my bed to the bathroom and I would have bled on the floor. When they say that they're heavy periods, they're heavy periods. I had a time throughout being on my copper IUD that I bled through clothes or down my legs at work several times, and I would have to leave. I would bleed through things when I'd go out. It was really heavy. That's my really honest opinion, is that your period is very, very heavy, and I would just have to not do anything. And it was only severely heavy on like the first 2 days, and then it would kind of go to like a normal person's heavy period, which is like, maybe you're a little bit worried that it's leaking through, but it's not actually leaking through, you're just being paranoid. But the first 2 days of a copper IUD period, it leaks through. Okay, so moving on from that, the next 5 years of having the copper IUD, it was honestly fine. It was such a fine experience. I would get a heavy period and really bad cramps for the first 2 days of every period, but my period was regular. And that was something that I actually really appreciated, was the certainty knowing I wasn't pregnant, that the IUD was still working. And yes, it wasn't a nice experience to go through, but it was only once or twice a month. And that was essentially the 5 years of me being on the copper IUD. I think once it's in, and after the first 24-hour insertion period, and after the first 4 months of like your body adjusting to it, it's actually okay. And you do need to consider the heavy period thing. So you've heard my story now with the copper IUD, and that's a judgment call you guys need to make. Now let's talk about why I was told to get the copper IUD out. I don't eat much meat, I bleed a lot, and I'm very low in iron. So my doctor essentially told me that I was too low in iron, that we needed to stop me from bleeding so much, because I didn't just have heavy periods. Like, my nose bleeds about 4 times a day. So I was just losing a lot of blood for someone who wasn't putting a lot of iron into my body. So they said that I had to get it out. It's as simple as that. I just said, okay, and it was a tough decision to say, what do I do now? But I was very anxious on a daily basis. My anxiety is a whole other story, which I have a lot of videos on, so go check them out if you want to hear more about it. But pretty much straight away, I said, okay, I will get it out, but I need to assess and figure out what I'm putting in my body, because at this point, I was still really against hormones. I really didn't want to touch them. So Sam and I spoke about it endlessly. We decided that I would get the Mirena IUD and we would see how I would go with the hormones. So the copper IUD lasts for 10 years and the Mirena lasts for 5 years. When I got the copper IUD, it was 2016 and it said it would last 2026. I then essentially got the copper IUD out at the 5-year mark. So they said to me, the Mirena is going to need to come out in 2026. So I spoke with Sam and I said, I'm going to do it one more time. And then it's coming out and I'm not doing anything. I'm not touching anything that has hormones in it and I'm not getting the copper IUD back. And that was a decision that we decided to make, was that the timing worked perfectly. I'll be 28. I highly encourage you to encourage your partners to go with you, and Sam did exactly that, as you will see in my vlog. The actual insertion process I recall being painful, but it was over within under a minute. Like, it was just like really bad cramps, then it was done, and that's it. I'm not sure whether the copper IUD causes more of a whole body needing to expel it because it's metal process, but the Mirena IUD I adjusted to pretty quickly. I felt a little bit off, but I didn't feel sick. I didn't need a vomit bag. I could walk on my own. I didn't need to sleep for 24 hours. Yes, I had a bit of cramping, but honestly, the Mirena IUD cramps were nowhere near as bad as the copper period cramps. I found that getting the Mirena IUD was a decent experience. I know so many other people who haven't had a good experience getting the Mirena IUD in. They have been out for 24 hours. I think it depends on everyone's experience. Okay, so now this is the final topic. 8 months into having the Mirena, how do I feel about it? The truth is, I think life is easy with the Mirena in. I don't bleed at all. I haven't had my period since March and it's October. However, I have found that I think I can feel the hormones affecting me. I think it played a big part in me being depressed earlier in the year, and I think that my body, I had to fight through, and I had my friends telling me don't get it out. And there were times where I would actually freak out because I couldn't just not take the pill and it would be done. I had to physically get this thing out of me. And there were times where I felt completely out of control and I would just be like, I need it out. I think it's making me depressed and suicidal. I need it out. But I pushed past those 4 months, and it was about 4 months. And then I've now started working on my mental health, doing a lot of lifestyle changes. So who knows whether it was the hormones or not. However, the timing works pretty well with that, where when I first started getting it, I was getting suicidal thoughts and it pretty much kicked in instantly. Like within a week of me getting it, I had really bad suicidal thoughts, and I'm not someone who experiences suicidal thoughts, never in my life, except for the times that I have had hormones go into my body. I don't know what to say about that. I think everyone responds to hormones differently. I was already depressed at the time, same as when I last got hormones put into my body from the pill. However, both of them seem to tip me over the edge and make me suicidal. So I'm sorry if this is triggering to anyone, but I do just feel like saying if you struggle with mental health, it's something to consider as well, because I didn't get that with the copper IUD. It did not affect or impact my mental health. So I personally found that I hated the Mirena more than I hated the copper IUD. I never once thought to myself, I want to get the copper IUD out, ever. I never thought that. But with the Mirena, even to this day, 8 months later, every now and then I still think I don't like it because I don't know what it's doing to me. Affecting my hormones is just something that I feel like is such an unnatural process, and I really don't like the thought that it is controlling me in a way that I don't know and I can't see. Now, another factor is that I haven't had my period since March. So I find that I actually get really bad anxiety over needing to take pregnancy tests to confirm that I'm not pregnant. That's also something to consider as well. I felt like I was bloating a lot more as well, and that I was getting my period symptoms. So you still PMS, you still get your PMS symptoms, you just don't bleed. So I think that's pretty much my experience with the Mirena and the copper. I personally would struggle to decide. I think that it's a really big decision, and I think that there's a lot of factors. If you have mental health, it's something to consider. If you already have bad periods, that is a very, very big factor. If you are someone who relies on your period to confirm that you are pregnant or not pregnant, also something to consider. So I'm sorry guys if that didn't help you at all. I really think that it is a decision that is worth running by people in your life. It requires you to consider all the factors in your life and to watch enough videos like me to hear the different experiences that people have. I would honestly say that like at least 50% of my friends are on the Mirena IUD and they all love it. So I feel like just getting that out there, that it is really preferred type of birth control. And a lot of people say that the copper IUD is old, ancient, and you shouldn't use it. However, I think it depends on your interactions with hormones. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that this helped you in some way get to know a little bit more about whether you should get the Mirena or the copper IUD. Yeah, sending you all love, and please, if you are going through this alone, reach out to me because no one should do this alone. I don't recommend it at all, and I just want to send you love. Good luck with the insertion process of whichever one you decide to get. Bye!